Welcome to the Town Board Workshop, Thursday, September 1st. Please rise and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Emergency exits are behind the town attorney and also the door you came in. Roll, please.
Supervisor Prodi?
Here.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Here.
Blackman?
Here,
And let the record reflect that Revillard and Gutierrez are absent.
Is there any public comment?
he's worse than me, Victoria. Just saying.
2 minutes public comment.
I'm the new, yeah, it'll be 2 minutes, but I'm going to speak a little bit slower than I did
I'm not gonna
before.
say.
All right, you can do that. All right, I'll let you make your own decision on
So
that.
what was that? I'm worse or better?
Victoria wasn't
She's not really
sure.
sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a tie.
I said you were worse, but I think she
I'm
thinks
worse.
I'm worse.
I'm just slightly younger.
I'm not going there.
You're not going there. Executive session, that's when that'll happen. Hi, my name is Charlie Miller. I'm the chair of the Wastewater Committee and the Housing Board, and I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments about both. So I'll start with the wastewater. The Wastewater Committee wanted to thank Supervisor Prodi and the Town Board for your continued support with our work in the 2002 Amenia Hamlet Sewer Feasibility Study. We also want to thank you, and I don't know if this has been made explicitly public. We spoke about this during our presentation 2 weeks ago, but that the Town Board supported the application in June to the New York State Annual Intended Use Plan. So the preliminary engineering report, which is the feasibility study, was submitted to the IUP, and on September 15th, that IUP was published, and the sewer feasibility study is on that IUP. For those who don't know, that is how you actually apply for grant funding as well as for debt financing. And since Amenia is considered a hardship town, we are able to get interest-free debt financing for the project if we so need it. Also, the bipartisan infrastructure bill allows for 50% of the project to be paid for through grants, so completely free money. And we are on the IUP and at the 50% level in the IUP. And also, 25% of that project can be paid for through WIA, which is the state's Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. The WIA application we can't apply for until we actually have formed a district, but I think it's good to know that in those two programs, that's 75% of the project that could be covered with grants. The first public presentation of the study was made on July 18th. And we have gotten a lot of response back through email, Facebook postings. We have a Facebook page there that we are interacting with people, as well as through phone calls. Just so everybody knows as well, a couple of weeks ago we mailed everyone in the proposed district, residential owners in the proposed district, a letter with an overview of the study, as well as what the preliminary user fees that are presented in the study are for each one of those parcels. We've received a good amount of feedback from that as well, which is great. Over the next 2 months, the committee is going to host a number of forums with both homeowners and with business owners in the proposed district. We want to elicit as much feedback as we can and use that to revise how we approach this going forward. So far, cost and impact are probably two biggest issues that have been relayed to us as people have gotten back to us. You know, we're a town of working class people, and many people are on a fixed income. So I want to say up front that probably the preliminary residential user fee that is presented in the study is too high and will have to be lower, I think, for the study for the sewer project to be feasible. And so the committee is looking at that and ways that we can reduce that price. That price is based off of no grant funding, so that's an important element of it. But clearly, if we get 75%, maybe that'll get us close to arriving at a feasible fee. And the committee wants to reiterate that everybody's feedback is extremely important. And so please email cleanwater@ameniany.gov. Someone will respond to you, and if they don't have the answer, they will find it out. And you can also interact with us on our Facebook page. So that's the wastewater. I don't know if you guys want any questions or comments about that. The housing board, so a little bit of housekeeping. I know Damien isn't here. We have 2 members who do not have email addresses. So we need, my understanding is the town needs additional licenses.
No.
Okay. So,
I actually went through the list and I cleared off a couple of people that don't need emails.
okay, fantastic.
So I found 2 licenses, but might have to go through again.
Okay,
And
okay,
we need
great.
one more for someone on, who just told me that, on rec. This is the new person on recreation.
Building
who's working
department.
here. Yeah, doesn't have
Same
one,
person,
doesn't have email.
Nicole.
Nicole.
Well, 3. Maybe we can find one more. That's great to hear.
Just cut me out, Victoria. Just throw me off.
She doesn't want
What
2
am I
people.
gonna do, smoke signals?
You just throw a new plant at him. That'll get his attention. Okay, so let's see. I worked with Ashley from AKRF earlier this week about a timeline for the implementation of the comp plan and zoning updates. She emailed that to the town board yesterday. I think everybody's in receipt of that. And I believe you guys are discussing that this evening. We think that's a very doable timeline, and the housing board will show up in any way we need to help push that through. And that sort of ties into our next mini grant. The housing board received 2 mini grants from HRH. The first we launched with the Amenia NY homes. And I will say that I've gotten a lot of response about the yard signs that have been placed. It's really great. It actually elicited a conversation last week with a very large nonprofit developer. A friend of his had seen those signs, had taken a photo of it, and had said, "You got to get in touch with these people." That's exactly what we wanted to happen, so I think that that's a great outcome to it. Our next mini grant event will be around zoning, and so clearly the process that you guys are about to go through with AKRF ties into that in our community engagement. Finally, around housing, if you didn't see, the Dutchess County just established a $12.3 million countywide housing fund. The housing fund, and most of that is being paid for through ARP funds. The housing fund has 3 main programs. One is around paying or grants around creating rental housing, conversion, repurposing and such. The second is around infrastructure, so actually they will pay a percentage of doing a generic environmental impact study. That would be big for Amenia, so I think that that's probably something that's very appropriate for us. And the third is really about underwriting first-time home ownership, which we can publicize that, but I don't think the town would have much engagement on that. And the final thing I just want to mention is drinking water. In the Wastewater Committee's outreach to members, most of the members in the proposed wastewater district, the sewer district, are also members of the water district, the established water district. And we all know the water district has many, many problems. So I want to thank the board for having actually engaged an engineer and having created an engineering report, like a wastewater report. It was also, the June application for the IUP was done, thanks to the board. The water district's engineering report now appears on the drinking water IUP. It, just like the sewer district, has a 50% line item for BIL funding, which is pure grants. And WIA also has a drinking water program that will fund the lesser of $5 million or 60% of the project. I believe the engineering report is around 13, but 5 million is a large. You got another 50 through the BIL. So this year's WIA application is due next Thursday, so clearly we aren't going to make that. But there is an enormous amount of money here, so I would really encourage the board to start planning out how the funding of those replacements would be, because they are very large items that need to be addressed. So that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to let you know, in the mail room, just before you get to the auditorium, there's a box there with several of your surveys that came back
Oh,
because of incorrect addresses, so you might want to pick that up on your way out.
okay. Well, I'll pick it up and I'll see. Maybe it's the mail that we sent to potential sewer district parcels?
Yes.
That's what it is? Okay, fantastic. Good.
But there's several in there you might want to.
Okay, and that's,
As you're going to the auditorium, there's, our mail room is right there.
It's a door on the
The
left.
door on the left.
Says
Okay.
employees
And
only.
there's a box there, and they're all in your box.
okay. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Before you sit down, Charlie,
Yes.
I noted that the water district, that the water project as well as the wastewater projects are on the IUP, but I couldn't figure out, are they listed in a sequence in terms of how important they were deemed, or has that not been established yet?
So I haven't delved into the water because I would encourage the board to actually establish a water committee, and it could be merged with the wastewater committee. I think they're two, they interplay very well, and they're two infrastructure projects that must be addressed in this town, in my opinion. Definitely the water, since we have a water district. For sewer and water, they're both scored, and they're relatively similar criteria that score them. The sewer, we have a score that's not massive, but our score will increase significantly once we form a district. So you have to have a district to increase your score.
Okay.
With the water, since you have a established water district, you are in a hardship area, you are in a, I'm just forgetting the other designation. That will increase your score as well.
Okay, so that's not included, and are they listed in order of their score? Do you know that, or you don't know?
Well, so the IUP, so they're although they are both under the Environmental Facilities Corporation, they are two different groups. Their reports look differently. The sewer, which I'm very familiar with, it has multiple pages, so you appear differently on each page. And right now we are currently under the hardship line. There's a line that's drawn, and we are like 3 below that. But once we form a district, we will snap up to the top.
Okay.
And many of the things that are on the annual IUP may have been on them from last year and have already been funded, so they will drop off and we will move up.
Okay. I checked to make sure we were on, but I didn't
Yeah.
have time.
But
to
we
look
are
at
on both.
carefully.
It is a big deal. And since we can get 0% financing, let's just, for example, you wanted to begin doing stuff in the water district, the board passes a resolution, you eventually have, a permissive referendum, and you can draw funds that are 0%. It might as well be free money. Clearly that has to be paid back, but you have to put together a funding, stream as to how you're going to pay for things.
Actually, there's more of a procedure than that, because you have to have a public hearing.
Well, I understand that. I'm not getting really into the weeds of all of it, but for the water district, there's elements of it that you can probably you definitely will be under Seeker Type 2, so you don't even have to do an environmental impact study. Replacement of the water tank, probably under Seeker 2. Replacement of a lot of the piping, probably under Seeker 2. I would encourage the board to look into, which they're going to have to, spending ARP money on the secret, because it will have to be done to be able to get any kind of funding from the state. Unless it's replace, repair, same thing. There's money for lead pipe replacement and things of that nature. I don't think that we have a lot of lead pipe that needs to be replaced.
But
We
it's
have-
At least that wasn't.
We have to do the inventory.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's one thing. That's
And
a small
Marco
amount
and
of
I
money.
applied for a grant for funds for that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Probably a small amount of money. I mean, I think total replacement of most of our stuff in the water district is around $13 million, give or take. And so there's significant work to be done there, and it will clearly have to be funded through grants.
Thank you, Charlie,
You're welcome.
if I may call you that.
Town clerk report?
Good evening. This evening, I just have one quick PSA. We have a dog law here in the town of Amenia, and the purpose of that dog law is to help keep track of our dogs. We want to make sure that they're not running at large and that they're not misbehaving by any means. We all know our dogs are like our children, so the law is there for a good reason. But the component that is affected in the town clerk's office is you have to license your dog. So you have to license your dog every year, and there's fees that are associated with that every year. So if you happen to miss, say, 2021 for whatever reason, mistakes happen, bills get over. sought, but when you come to license your dog in 2022, you're still responsible for paying 2021 and 2022. You know, you don't get like that freebie when you don't do your car inspection that month that it's due, and you get the next month and buy some time. So I just want to remind everybody of that, so that way they're not like yelling at me in the office because you forgot to pay your bill. We do send the notices out quarterly, so you do have 3 months in advance to know that it's coming. You do have the opportunity to pay for 3 years as a whole if you wanted, as long as the rabies, you come in right when you do your 3-year rabies. So I mean, we try to make it as user-friendly as we can. You can pay for and renew your dog license online. So we try to make every avenue available out there for you to renew your license. So if anybody has any questions or really wants to have a better understanding that, it's chapter 53 of our code. So you can go right on your cell phone, look it up, visit Amenia, look at our town code, understand the dog licensing components, know how to reach out to us. I think I'm gonna have to start giving that lecture again, like we do the need of volunteers. So please don't let your dogs run loose. What's great about letting your dog come in and get a cute like little silver tag that he gets to wear or she gets to wear is if your dog does get perhaps out of the yard, if they go to that Amenia tag and it says, you know, give Dawn a call at area code 845-373-8860. We flip it over and we see the tag numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my God, I go into the computer system, I look it up, that's Benny Kligner, and I know exactly who his mom is, and I know who I can call and make sure he gets home. So, I mean, there really is a purpose to the whole dog law, dog licensing, and wearing their tags. So I'm just asking everybody to please be mindful on that, or you get to hear me talk about it at all of our future meetings. Michelle is working on our upcoming trips. She's asked that I announce that the Villa Roma trip on Tuesday, October 25th is almost full. She has approximately 25 more seats. So if you're looking, the deadline to go on that trip is October 11th. It is a first come, first served basis, so you need to send in those fees. So anytime we're looking to register for those, please be mindful of that we're sending them in. We do want to save the date coming up on Tuesday, December 13th. This year's senior Christmas party is going to be at the AquaTurf. And another fun local event that we have, this one is, if anyone is interested in sponsoring or putting a cart in and helping out for the golf tournament, our 4th annual John P. Culligan Senior Memorial Golf Tournament is going to be held this year on Friday, October 7th at Casper Hill Golf Club. So if anybody wants more information on any of the senior trips or other local events, they are posted here at the town hall in the front entranceway.
Dawn, where's that golf club located?
Casper Golf, it's South Road in Poughkeepsie. It's a really nice golf club, of course.
It used to be the IBM one.
Ah.
Yeah, so that's a way to. So I think these announcements are working because we now have an application for CAC. So I wanted to.
Oh, good.
It went around. I know the board has the application. So do you want to schedule for 6:30 at our next meeting to have her come in and interview? All right, so if anybody's out there watching tonight and you are looking for, to serve on any of our open volunteer seats, our CAC enhancement, you know, as we've been announcing, you can send that in to me and I can get you scheduled right away to get an interview before this board.
Your zoning board of appeal alternates.
Yeah, we have them all. And next month, the Board of Assessment Review is very important position, and we have 2 open positions at this time.
Where is that listed? Is that on the website? I think
It's on our website, and as soon as you walked in the front door, there's that like really bright colored yellow paper that I'm trying to put a flash on. It's also listed on our meeting room door, so I was hoping that anybody that came in for public comment wants to be on any more committees.
Charlie's on
That's
too
the
many
list.
already.
It's on
Well, maybe
Channel
he has
22 as
Channel
well.
22 and in the Millerton News. Maybe Charlie has a friend or 2 that he wants to share that announcement with. I don't know.
We get private time with Victoria.
Yes, that's best part about being on a committee. You get to come in and see the supervisor.
Right?
Is that a good sell? I mean, we're trying.
I
We're
can see it.
trying. We have no business tonight. We're trying.
Yeah, not that, oh, it's August, right? I mean, it's the end, it's not August anymore.
Yeah, all of our reports we're going to do at the next meeting and let them flow at our next meeting. So
I see.
that will conclude the town clerk's report for this evening.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, at 6 o'clock, Councilwoman Doyle and Councilman Blackman and I met with Bernie Layton at the charcoal kilns, and do you want to talk about the process that we're following? The town is looking to take over the kilns and do the maintenance and whatever else we need to do.
So we had an opportunity today to discuss with with Bernie Layton, who has a kind of design plan which was presented to the board. They're continuing to do a significant amount of work on the kilns and the site themselves, which is they're doing a pretty amazing job. The plan that was set forth has been presented to the board. It will have to be discussed amongst the board. There will be some procedural measures which need to take place first. It looks like there will more than likely have to be some approvals from Dutchess Land Conservancy about the design and plan for the kilns themselves. As far as the town is concerned, we would have to look into there would have to be a subdivision of the land, essentially subdividing out what was originally the conservation easement, which was at some point in time.
To be gifted to the town.
Yeah, it was previously merged into an entire lot, so that would have to be subdivided out, and that subdivided piece would then be gifted to the town with a turnkey operation. So that's kind of the status of where that is right now. So I think we're waiting to hear back from Dutchess Land Conservancy, and I will continue to work with Bernie on the next steps as far as subdivision and everything else.
And I would just say that if you haven't been by to see the restoration work on the kilns, it's pretty spectacular. They look like Aztec ruins, which is a kind of cool thing to have in Amenia. And I'm sorry, what is the road? I just blanked out that they're on. Deep Hollow. They're just north of 22 on Deep Hollow. And the Amenia Historical Society has been doing a lot of research, and the history of them is quite amazing. And we were talking about interpretive signs and stuff when we were there, so I think it's going to be kind of a great resource because no other town has them.
Okay, does the board have any other comments? We can move on to AKRF zoning regulations and comprehensive plan update for housing. Next steps. Ian?
So my understanding is that the town board has just been presented with the draft local law amendments. The board will have to review those. They will be reviewed by planning board as well. I think once we have some comments to that, we'll have a more definitive draft, at which time we could then set public hearing.
The planning board attorney is reviewing them as well.
As well, okay.
And there was a question about whether we could do the fee in lieu of providing workforce housing separately.
So, in reviewing the code, the code provides that they can be reviewed annually, but it does not, but it would require a local law to do so. And in order to do that, you'd have to go through the same process that AKRF has already done. They've actually already included it in their draft local law. So it has to go through the process of the amendment. And it will correspond with the edits and updates that are going to be made to the comprehensive plan. So those two items will work together.
Have you, Ian and you, Victoria, looked at the schedule that got sent from AKRF? Does that seem reasonable?
It's a little ambitious because they have certain aspects of it for today, which we're not quite ready for that today. I think the draft local law should be reviewed by, I mean, the town board just got it. According to this, it seems like the town board's already had it, reviewed it. So I think we're probably a meeting behind that, but I think it's feasible to keep pretty close to that schedule.
That's great. Victoria, I guess it would just be important to remind the other members of the board that aren't here that if that's going to be discussed next week, that they should make sure they read it. I mean, I'm sorry, the next meeting, that they do have 2 weeks to read it, but it is really interesting.
Some of this schedule is dependent upon other boards, the county reviewing it and giving comments, so there are some built-in dependencies on what we're going to get from that. But as soon as those comments come in, we can move forward, we can set the public hearings, we can conduct the public hearings and move it along.
Great.
AKR said that they would do the...
Microphone.
In speaking with Ashley at AKRF, she said that she would do all of the filings with Dutchess County that would need to be done. So I think you're correct, Ian, that the dependencies are the planning board coming back to us, but that's been given to them. And then the board reviewing it, I think her understanding was more that there would be a discussion tonight of that review, and that on the 15th, your meeting on the 15th, that there would be a presentation then. So the Housing Board is hoping that we can maintain this schedule so that it can all be done by before the end of the year. And my understanding now that I've looked and I've heard back from Ian, although through Leo with the fee in lieu of, was that our current code actually somewhat conflicts in that our fee in lieu of amounts are written into the code, as well as the ability for the board to revise that. So therefore, but they can't revise it without clearly having to, change the code, which requires a public hearing and all of this. And although it's not mentioned there, I think it's important for us to know that there is, and Ian, you can confirm that there's 2 public hearings that are required. One really just for the town code revisions, but that comp plan review changes require 2 public hearings, correct? And in Ashley's schedule, she's incorporated that so that we're able to do both of those, of course, over the course of time. Can you tell us the timing that's required for publication before a public hearing for our town code?
Actually, Dawn does,
Oh, maybe that's a Dawn
Publication.
question.
It's 10 days.
It's only 10 days?
Yeah.
But because they publish on a Thursday, and you have to meet their deadlines. So, like, for example, if I wanted to have something next week, I needed to have it this morning at noon.
Okay.
So, I mean, looking at the timelines, 10 days is really, you gotta look at the calendar and know. If
But
I
you
met
have-
the deadline, so we always go out 2 meetings.
you have the emails from AKRF
Mhm.
with the schedule, right?
But, I mean, until you guys were ready to move forward, I wasn't gonna correct anybody on there.
Well, we need to get comments from the county and the planning board before we can go to public hearing anyway.
I think it makes sense for the town board and the planning board to have their comments made, because if we set the public hearing for the local law, and then there's significant board comments and planning board comments, then there will be significant amendments potentially to the local law. And if we do that, then we'd have to relay that law on the desk for an additional 7 days. So that would actually potentially delay the process. So what I will do is I will reach out to Ashley. Her and I will work together on this. I'm quite certain the board hasn't had an opportunity to review the draft.
Well, I did, but just today.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we've had it, we're on the housing board, so we've been.
Oh, okay.
It's not a lot of,
No,
it's not a lot at all. So your suggestion is to wait for planning board comments, town board comments, housing board comments, incorporate those, and then use that? Because is it not that just all these comments come together, public, planning board, all come together to revise a document that the town board ultimately decides what it goes in, what stays out?
Correct. The town board will consider all comments that are made, but if we lay the law on the desk and we set public hearings, and then if you have edits to that, it delays the process of passing the local law.
Because then you have to have another one.
But yeah, so that's what I'm trying to ask for clarity. So then, is it that the draft that's published for the local, for the public hearing
Mhm.
already has all of these comments from the planning board and all these other, entities.
I think that would be
incorporated.
the most efficient way, if we have as many comments and if we can prepare a draft in its most final form, then that will hopefully reduce the
It'll
possibility
move it
of
through
having to
faster.
have future public
Okay,
hearings.
that's fine, but my understanding is ultimately, it's all those comments come together because
Sure.
you can take those comments to revise the document, you can also take comments from but there's not a second public hearing after you've received. So you open the public hearing is the beginning of public comment, right? That is then open for 30 days?
It
45?
depends. You can open the meeting, have a public hearing. If there's no comment, you close the public hearing, and then you could theoretically pass a local law. With this, it's being in conjunction with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan does require 2 public hearings,
Right.
one for the proposed changes, then one for the actual approval.
Right.
So the idea is to run these 2 on the same time frame. So the local law will be passed, or I guess the comp plan will be passed, and then the local law will be passed immediately after it.
Yeah,
So so you're kind of running them together.
okay.
So
And we
So
haven't
then-
seen the comprehensive plan
They're
revisions.
in there. It's very minor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, none of this is all quite minor, truthfully. The most impactful clearly is the fee in lieu of. But it seems like, looking at her schedule, you're gonna speak with her, Ian, but that maybe it just gets pushed 2 weeks.
Yeah, because there was some items in here that I don't think the town, well, first of all, we don't have a full town board, but I don't know if everybody's had an opportunity to even review it.
I
Is-
have.
Hmm?
We all have.
Okay.
We can't speak for the other 2 that aren't here.
And the planning board, I don't know.
People who showed up, they did their
Yeah.
homework.
So.
We were afraid.
I'm giving out demerits.
In terms of the planning board, have they seen the schedule? Because it might be helpful to them if they could kind of use that for some planning.
The schedule that was provided to me was literally provided August 31st. That's the first I've seen the schedule. It was,
Oh, yesterday.
yeah.
Yeah.
yesterday.
No,
So
I
that's
just,
why
you
I
didn't send
presumed
it to
that
the
the town
planning
board
board,
hadn't
did
even
you?
seen it. So but if you guys have seen it, I have
Dave's
not.
on it.
I'm sorry?
Planning board is on it. Dave's on it.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
He is included on it, yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so I'll take that we're hopefully just moving this 2 weeks forward.
Yeah, as I said, I just
Yeah.
got this email yesterday after 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll reach out to Ashley, I'll work with Ashley, and we'll get this done as fast as we can.
I'm just looking, you're moving in a meeting forward, because
Yes.
sometimes it is 5 Thursdays in a month, so don't commit to 2 weeks.
No, I apologize, yes, exactly, yes, we're moving a meeting. Thank you.
I mean, and you have holidays coming up, and Thanksgiving and other holidays that therefore follow.
Well, our particular schedule had us, I think, wrapping an implementation November.
First
so-
meeting in November, so it's
Yeah,
more like
so
the second meeting in November.
second meeting in
at minimum.
November, yeah, I'll bring the turkey.
First meeting
And
Yeah.
as it
Summer.
turns
for a
out,
local law.
with the budget schedule that I've been reviewing, as to when we are required to have our public hearing for that, there will be 3 meetings in November.
Yeah.
We'll have to have one the first, second, and third Thursdays in order to meet the municipal law regulations.
Okay. So we have more opportunity, that's fantastic.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't think we have any other matters that I know of.
Well, I have another matter, but I could wait until the board comments.
Okay, town board comments?
Thank you. I was just confused about where did it go to? I was just confused about the sidewalk bid. So this, I know that the last one was rejected because of price, but is this a reduced version that is being sent out? It said phase 2, I was confused as to
Well,
what.
if you read it,
I
you would
did.
see it said 490 feet. The original one that went out was 1,100
Ah,
feet.
okay, I didn't know that.
So that's why we asked, since it came in, we have a $150,000 grant. The bid came in at $320,000. That's why we rejected it.
Okay.
And I went back to the planning board Dutchess County Planning and asked them if we could do it in phases, because we ran into a problem when we first started the project. There was a problem with culvert pipes, so they said, okay, instead of doing the whole project, you can just do phase 1.
Okay.
So they said we could do this part as phase 2.
Okay.
So instead of 1,100 feet, it's going to be 490 feet. And Dawn has it to,
It went to the Millerton News, it's posted on our website already, so it's getting out there. I'll let the prior bidder know as well that
Good.
there's a new bid available.
On the subject of the Millerton News, I don't know, it got delivered just before I came here, but there's a story about wastewater, and the editorial is about wastewater, which was sort of remarkable to me. So, in Amenia, that is. So that's kind of, I was pleased to see that. That's good that they were very positive about it.
and this afternoon I put the bid on Empire BidNet, which means it'll go out to like 400 vendors.
Great. Okay. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, a couple of other things. Just that the building department, I got someone stopped by my house very upset about an interaction they had with a neighbor about some noise issue. And I told them that I would call the building inspector, but they might want to stop, or they could come tonight to public comment. But I told them they might want to stop at town hall and meet with Tom directly, and he resolved the thing in 15 minutes. So again, I'm just very glad that we're ahead of the game with enforcement. Vicki, I don't think I told you this, but I did. Megan found the information on the light pole that was damaged in Wasaig,
Oh,
and I have that now. I have been a bad board member and haven't
so it's
looked at it.
a part that we can,
Well, yes, there's a
Replace.
post that's separate.
Yeah.
So I haven't managed to call them yet, but I will and get a price for that.
super.
The email addresses we talked about. Victoria, again, I just, when we're thinking about budgeting, one of the things that I want to make sure we think about then is the grant writer. Because it seems like the grants are coming fast and furious, and it would be great if we had someone who was able to kind of monitor what's out there and also do the follow through. So I think that's an especially important issue now. So that was the last of my comments.
Are there any other town board comments?
I was going to mention that Stacy Mantle and I had met with an electric company that looked at 2 sites in Amenia for a potential grant application for DEC's ZEV infrastructure program. It offers a 0% match, as Amenia is a disadvantaged community, as we keep mentioning. So the grant would provide up to $250,000 of zero match money to our town if we found parcels of land that would be appropriate for EV charging stations. The money would come to the town of Amenia. It could be on a separate utility meter, and so when somebody needed to charge their car, they could do that with their phone. There are apps that, ChargePoint is the one I use. It's very common. You just plug in with that app and it charges your credit card. It's pretty seamless. So it's self-service. We just need a place to do that. Wasaig Project is willing to consider providing an easement to their existing parking space across from Max and Mills. So if you drive on Furnace Bank Road past Max and Mills, before you get to the railroad tracks, you would see on your left some orange painted lines where we marked out where we thought 2 car spaces and 1 EV charging station that would serve the 2 parking spaces would be possible. So theoretically, you could come to Wasaig, go eat at the Lantern or somewhere in town and use the rail trail while your car is being charged. That rate would be a reasonable rate, I think, because the whole idea is to make electric vehicles more more common and easier to utilize. And then the other, so that was very encouraging. We looked at the electrical infrastructure that would need to be done, and they're doing infrastructure anyway for another reason, so they're upgrading stuff. It is possible to do it there, but it's even easier apparently to do it on town-owned property at the Mechanic Street rail trail. So again, you could theoretically park your car, eat in town, do fun things in town, use the rail trail while your car's being charged. So the county owns the parking lot. Well, they maintain the parking lot, and we own the parcel in front of the parking that goes towards on the Depot Hill side of Mechanic Street. So Mechanic Street comes up to the rail trail parking lot, and then as it proceeds up the hill, it becomes Depot Hill Road. So the parcel closest to it is 11 Depot Hill Road. That isn't the parcel, but it's next to it, and it's about what is it, 0.5, 0.8? The very, you know,
0.7.
Yeah,
To stand
0.7,
corrected.
it's about half of an acre. But at any rate, all we need is to put our meters there and to find out what it would take to work with the county and the state. It's a state park, that rail trail. The Harlem Valley Rail Trail is really owned by New York State. So there's a couple of entities, but the physical land where we would put our EV charging station was very easy, according to the electrician who's is doing it in Millerton and has
And
done
it's
many other
town-owned.
towns. And it's
We own
town-owned, so
it.
no easements other than maybe just working with the other entities who are involved in maintaining it. So I think Stacy and I are working on Saturdays at 9:30 to try and meet a September 30th deadline. And if we don't make that, I understand there will be more deadlines that are rolling, so hopefully we will find out what it takes to get this done. Is there any town board resolution we need at this point, Victoria, to utilize Mike Haggerty's time if we need some technical assistance, or we need to utilize the lawyer to make
Do
sure
we
that
need
we have a
a
budget?
resolution to apply for this?
We're not ready to yet apply for it. We just need to be able to utilize town resources to move forward. Modest resources.
And what exactly would they be used, the resources going to be used?
So there are questions that come up on a regular basis, like we may have to ask you, we have to develop a budget. So we already know that there's some legal issues that we may have to address.
Yep.
So I would have to ask you to please provide me a ballpark number for doing whatever it is, the legal work that needs to be done. I'll need to perhaps utilize the help of Mike Haggerty. He's already been helpful in reminding me what my password is and all that to get onto the grant portal. But there are potentially $100 worth of miscellaneous charges of, depending on how much you charge, depending on how much Mike charges. He's been doing a bunch of work for free, by the way. He needs to, bill us for his time, but there are some miscellaneous charges that I would need to utilize.
If the town is exploring this, it's a town board.
If they're interested in moving forward, I agree. If they're not interested in moving forward with EV charging stations, then I should know, because there's no point in doing a lot of work.
Well, we could take a vote on that, right?
I mean, it would be a town board, if the town board wants to proceed with it, they can proceed with it, and I'm a consultant to the town board, so I can be consulted on.
Right, I'm
small-
not
I don't need
so
a
much asking
resolution
you,
for-
I'm just saying, I have no idea what your charges would be that would help us create a budget that's reasonable enough to put forward towards this grant application.
Until
this
you
is a-
select a location,
Well, we did.
that would be,
We have 2 locations, so
Once-
we understand from Victoria and perhaps Leo as well, I don't know, that the preferred location is probably on Mechanic Street because we own it. There's less certainty, obviously, and a lot more expense involved and a lot more uncertainty with the property owned by another entity. Maintenance, all of that, because we have to snowplow it, we have to make sure it's available. We don't just build it and then hope for the best. So do you want me to just follow up with the Mechanic Street, just see if we can get that done?
Yes.
And then if we want to go forward with being successful there, we could try it
I-
elsewhere.
I think the town board's gonna need, once you figure out where you're gonna put it, that will dictate a lot of the expense, because if you have to do the easement,
Yeah,
that's.
'cause
They're
we-
two
we
separate
own it.
grants.
It's
I
our
have to
land.
say, we would not be doing both. If you have two separate locations, apparently we have to do two separate applications. So our focus would be obviously on the first,
Right,
on the most important
yeah,
one.
Mechanic Street.
Yeah,
And-
and probably, given the time frame, it would only be possible to do one in that
Okay.
time frame.
And I think the other aspect of this that the town would need to know are what charges would be included in the continued maintenance of this. I know the grant would cover most of the expenses.
All,
all of it,
0%.
for 2
And
years.
there's no way it would cost more than 250,000 according to this electrician who's put in other EV charging stations. So it should be of no cost to us. We just have to put in a realistic budget so the grant application is commensurate with what we actually need.
The long term, because the grant would cover all charges or whatever, I don't remember exactly what it said, but if you're saying it's all charges, but it would do that for 2 years. I remember there was a 2-year cap on that. Then after that, the town would assume the charges. And in the
Charges
emails.
for- charges-
Well, in the emails, and I had indicated this in a prior email, I don't recall now specifically, but there was like 5 or 6 different charges that were expressed, and we didn't know what they were. And I think that before the town board proceeds, they should know what those charges are. I mean, ultimately, it's a town board decision on how they want to handle that, but at some point in time, if it's on town property, the town will have to maintain it. And so they.
Well,
those-
okay, so let's just, my understanding, the maintenance would be that you plow it and make sure that there is access to this. I don't think we have to do anything maintenance-wise that I know of. I mean, if something breaks or whatever, I guess we'll need to find out what that responsibility is.
I
for
don't
X
have the
number of
email.
years. Right, so
with me,
I
but
will,
there
by
was-
the next meeting, understand what the maintenance is other than, and what other charges might be. Currently, the county plows it, is that correct? I believe the county keeps the.
No,
No,
Oh, they-
there's
'cause they
there's
just
the
do
electric
it.
charges, there was a number
No,
of
we've-
different
we've
fees
been-
that were involved.
we've been plowing the parking lot up there,
The Mechanic Street.
the Mechanic Street parking lot. However,
Huh,
I have yet to receive a contract from the county. There's some issues with the risk company, I don't know what it is, but we would be, we would take on doing any plowing around the,
'Cause we
the
do it
electric
anyway.
station.
it's
Yeah.
2 parking spots that we
Yeah.
already have.
Yeah, we
We're
would,
just
we would do
adding-
that anyway, it's our property, so.
So the issue though is it going to be, do you foresee any difficulty dealing with the county and or the state around the rail trail? I guess it would just be the county if they actually own the
I guess
lot, the
All
property?
no, they don't own the property, we own the property. They only own the parking
No,
lot.
I'm talking about the parking lot because that's actually where the cars would have to be.
No.
So if we're
What
right on
cars
the,
would have to be.
No, the
Well-
cars would be, if I'm
No.
understanding this properly, the cars and the site would be on town property.
On
The only
town
thing that's gonna be
property.
on.
No, the cars. So as I recall, the site is that you drive into Mechanic Street, parking lot. There's parking that faces the rail trail. There's also parking that faces Depot Hill Road. We own the parcel that's contiguous but not part of the actual parking spaces. So the parking spaces, you drive in and park where you normally would park anyway. This just would happen on our land to have, that abuts it. It would have the charging station there,
But we would
serving
need it-
2 of those spaces.
but we need an easement from whoever owns the property and who does own that
Well,
property?
The county.
people are driving
County.
anyway. We're already plowing it, so I don't know why we need an additional easement other than we're gonna need to install some stuff, I don't know.
Well, people are parking there anyway, and
Yeah,
the
it's existing.
charging
It's
station is gonna be on our property, so why would we need an easement?
That's what I'm.
Only because you can't use the parking, you can't charge without being on someone else's property. So right?
So is there,
Charge with.
Well, in other words, you
In
have to.
other words, suddenly I agree that we need to talk to the county
Yes.
about that, and maybe even the state, because it's a state park that of 66 feet.
Is
from
there going to
the
be
center line.
infrastructure
It's
from
theirs.
the charging station that's going to run through that state property?
I don't think it
No.
needs
No,
to.
we're gonna
No.
do everything
No.
right on our property,
Okay,
and it's
that's
super
a
easy
benefit.
according to this
Well, if
guy.
it's our property and we're going to put the charging stations, can't we put parking spaces where they can pull in and charge?
Well,
We were gonna
I mean,
just use the
why do they
existing-
have to park?
well, that was how I understood it was gonna be set up, that's why I'm just
So
trying
the
to clarify.
problem with putting
An easement would be
our-
beneficial, because if they wanted to put up a fence or change some design plan on that, you could isolate that charging station, potentially. I mean,
Okay, so this is the kind of question that we are going to need probably some technical expertise. It may be that
So-
to apply for this grant, I have to understand what all
The mechanics are gonna need to be legally.
But I think you have
to
two
make it happen.
options. If that is too complicated, or if it's too difficult negotiating with the county on that, you could just have 2 parking spaces on our property. I mean,
Well,
you
that's
could
what I
just-
was thinking.
I mean, you need
The
a curb
problem
cut.
is,
Yes.
you would, yeah, you maybe, it goes straight uphill. It's not easy. So then you
Oh,
would get
even right
rid
at
of
the bottom.
these 2 spaces and you'd put it on our property, right? And it's uneven property and it's just not ideal. The
Right.
electrician was thrilled with the idea of just putting it simply here,
I think
using 2
that's-
spaces.
I think
that
that's really
exist.
easy, and I think that in all probability, that would be a benefit to the rail trail and to the county, because they, and the state. 'cause
That's
they
what
wanna-
I'm thinking.
they
We're
wanna
all
encourage
trying to
that.
get to zero
Yeah,
carbon.
yeah, but I just think we need to have some sort of agreement with them in
That it's
terms of.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we're basically.
I've been trying for months.
Oh, okay.
my last conversations were about some of these long-term costs that we're going to incur. And in the email chains that were sent to me, and again, I wasn't prepared to talk on this specific
So
item tonight.
long-term costs, the
So-
reality is that those costs should be borne by the person who's utilizing the machine. So when I do ChargePoint, those charges, I understand, go to the town of Amenia, and we get billed for that separately. It's a separate thing, and if we want to tack on 2 extra cents per kilowatt hour, fine. That's up to us, that we can decide to create our own fees, but we would more than cover whatever it takes somebody. We're not giving away electricity to somebody who
Yeah.
owns an electric vehicle. We would be making money on it, if anything. Or saying, this is what we want the town to do, go ahead and convert, and we'll just, it's a service. We don't plan to have it cost taxpayers anything to put this in.
So, in the email chains that were sent to me on this,
Right.
there were, I think, 5 different named charges that would have to be assumed. Some of those may have been duplicative charges. I was unaware. I had sent an email asking about the charges to the woman you were working with on it. She said she was going to look into those charges, but ultimately, I
Oh,
was
that
looking
was
into
Eleanor?
Yeah, I think it was Eleanor.
Oh.
So she was going to look into those charges. That was the ongoing cost that may or may not exist. So that was one item. The second item was where we were going to place this, and up until now, I've not heard of. No one's told me any idea on where they want to place anything. So I don't.
They're going on land that we own
Okay.
on Depot Hill.
This is the first I've heard of it, so I would have to look into what that would mean. If it's on our land and there's no crossing on anyone else's property.
I can send you the GEIS,
Okay.
put the parcel access on it.
And Victoria, you've been in touch with the county, you're trying to arrange this with them, is that what you said
No.
before? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I think a simple call is what I would recommend, starting with Robert Balkine and say.
I've been on
what-
calls with Robert Belkine.
So will
The
we
problem
not come
is that we had a agreement with the county that if like a tree fell on the Mena part of the rail trail, that, our highway department would go and take it off the rail trail and put it off to one side. And we've also been plowing the parking lot for the rail trail. And I've been trying to get that contract renewed. And apparently it's turned into some brouhaha with the risk company of the county. So it's an ongoing saga.
Well,
I
then-
mean, I'll call them again and tell them, you know, this other thing that we want to do and see if we can do that.
I think if you're about ready to renew your maintenance agreement with the county, then this
We're not
is-
about ready to do anything. I've been waiting a year.
So is it expired?
Yes,
Okay, so this would be folded into that kind of,
if you can get them to do it, yeah.
okay,
I've been on calls with them. I'll be doing another one.
okay.
Because I already let the Harlem Valley Rail Trail Association know that we no longer have a contract with them because they can't seem to get their act together.
Okay,
Okay, well, if you need me to yell at anyone, I'm more than happy to.
It doesn't matter yelling. It has to do with their risk company out there, and the attorneys are in on it. So it's,
Okay.
I don't know, when I talk to Mr. Balkine, he's ripping his hair out too, so.
okay.
But I'll follow up on it, like I have been.
So Recreation has put in their budget sheets. I put it in your box. We met last night. We're looking at Labella, and Leo has been looking at the landscape architects who are potential people to help with our recreation planning.
Right, the three names that we got of landscape architecture firms, only one of them has public experience, in other words, dealing with an actual park or playground or a town-owned space. The others, the other two, while they do beautiful work, both kind of exclusively do high-end residential, you know, like waterfront landscapes for big estate and stuff like that. So it occurred to Vicki that we should find out from Millerton who they were using for their park. It turned out it was Labella who we're using for the highway garage first phase. So I went on their website, and I guess Paul went on their website, and they do have a lot of experience with town parks and rail trail kinds of things. They've done a number of projects like that. So I think Paul just wanted to make sure that it was okay to talk to them as well.
Oh, absolutely. You can talk to, I mean, you're getting bids, so you can
Right.
talk to whoever you want to talk
Okay,
to.
just wanted to make sure.
Don't, go ahead. Talk to everybody.
Okay, I think that's it. We're meeting on Saturdays at 9:30 to work on this EV charging grant and climate smart tasks for the CAC. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to go into executive session for threatened litigation. The town clerk is excused with the town attorney.
I'll second that.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
And Plasko?
Yes.
Everyone have a safe weekend.